All right. So I was just explaining how FL Studio works. So we've got two parts in patterns. We've got just a basic part here in pattern 1 and then a clap here in pattern 2. So we're just kind of basically learning how to put patterns into the playlist. So we've got two patterns. We're going to go ahead and drag these in. I've got pattern 1 selected. I click and then I dragged over 8 bars. Now let's do over 4 since this is simple. We're not really doing this for music. We're doing it just for utility. So then I go to pattern 2 and I'm going to drag that across 4 bars as well. And then, see, pattern is still selected. If I want to hear the combination of what's in the playlist, I have to drag my mouse up here and click song. And then click play. And then we have a very simple but albeit effective demonstration of how to drag different parts that we created into the playlist. So again, we started here from the channel picker, the channel rack. We had pattern 1 and pattern 2. See how they change when you change patterns. One will go away, the next will be added. And then we have our playlist right here. We just dragged it right in, and it was that easy to create a part, even though it's not that good of a part, but we'll focus on the musical aspect of things later on. Let's see here. What else can we... So we have pretty much control over most of our DAW up here. I very rarely use these buttons, though these are some options for you. Here's the undo. This allows you to edit and chop samples. This is one-click audio recording. Help. You can save your project. You can save your project as an audio file. You can view and edit the project info. You can launch the content library. And then down here, we have our playlist. So that's what we dragged patterns into. We have our piano roll. That's where we can put in note data and control the pitch of our samples as well. See, as I go up, the snare or the clap gets higher. And as I go down, it's lower. So that's the piano roll, note data. Our channel rack, this is where we organize all of our instruments and our samples. And we can input data next to them to tell them to do specific things. Now the next thing we have here, I'm going to try and drag this back over here. We have our mixer. So our mixer is where we can actually start routing specific sounds to each different channel so that we can then control their overall volume and mix. And we can also start over here on the right adding audio effects. Now if you have like an external sound box, kind of like a Focusrite 2i2 like I have down here, I can also select an audio input externally. So if I had like a guitar or a microphone, what I would do is I would select my audio driver, and then I would come over here and select, whatever input is associated with my audio box. So that may change. I'm not going to show you guys that much because that may change depending on what kind of audio box you have. Cool. So the way that you route channels to the mixer is you go back to the channel rack, and you may notice that there are numbers next to each individual sound. So what you do is you click and you drag it up to the number, or just click and type in the number that you want that particular instrument or sound to be routed to on the mixer. And now when we look, I'm still on the clap, hold on. Now when we look, so here's the piano, I routed it to channel 6. Now if we look at the mixer on channel 6, we see that we get sound, and we can see on the left that we can see how loud the sound is. Right now we're hitting at around -6 decibels. So see, if we move this knob up and down, we can kind of change that volume. Exactly, cool. So there's some other things over here on the mixer. What FL Studio gives you for each channel It gives you kind of an equalizer down here. We can kind of talk about what that does a little bit later, but basically it's you can cut and boost certain frequencies, low frequencies being on the left, middle ranged frequencies being in the middle, and high frequencies being all the way on the right. We can cut and boost those as we see fit. So now see we only have low end there when we do that. Anyway, we can go into the mechanics of EQ a little bit later. This is basically just the mixer. You want to route any sound that you make or that you're going to work with into the mixer so that you can then adjust levels and start adding effects and like really carving out the details in the sound that you want. Cool. So we also have over here, we have a browser control. So if you want this little thing on the left, you can access a lot of FL's functionality. I have too many things in my browser. I have way too many things in my browser, but you can access and drag things in from FL right here. So say you wanted to throw a specific audio effect and you wanted to kind of look through what you had, you could look through them here in the browser. Another way to start looking through your what you have available to you, what tools you have to use, is to go to View. So under View, you're going to scroll your mouse down and you're going to pick Plugin Picker. Okay? So this is going to display, whoops, if I don't click something, this is going to display every single plugin that you have in front of you in visual form. And what you can then do is when you find one that interests you or that you like or that you want to try out, you can take it, and if it's a synth or a sound maker, you can drag it into the channel rack and boom, we get sound out of it there. If it's an effect, we can go to View, Plugin Picker. We would then drag that in effect, like vocodecs, for example. We would drag that into a slot on the mixer. So see now that has its own slot on the master channel. Not that we would ever want to put a vocoder on the master channel. Don't do that. But just to show you, you can drag effects from the plugin picker into the mixer. That's the way that you do that. Cool. So that's kind of the basic rundown of the program. From here, we kind of have our playback controls. So we can play the song, we can stop the song, we can record new audio into the song if we want to, and then it gives us a few different options about how we want to do that. We can change the BPM, or beats per minute, of our song. So right now we're at 140. If I drag this down to 120, it'll slow my song down. Or if I drag it up, not that we would ever produce a song at 500 beats per minute, but who knows? Maybe you really like to work in micro beats. That might be an option if you feel like doing that. So over here we have a few different buttons that are also there to make our lives a lot easier. We have our metronome right here. So if we turn this on, anytime we open a fresh pattern and press play, we'll get a click. So we can get kind of a reference for what the beat is going to be like. This is a really handy tool, having a metronome ready to go on your beats. We've got wait for input to start playing, so it'll wait for input from your MIDI controller before it'll start playing the beat if you have this selected. This is 3, 2, 1 countdown, so instead of the beat just starting when you have this button selected, it'll give you a countdown, and it'll count to 3, 2, 1, go, and then you'll record. I keep that on because I like to have a little bit of warning before I just have to play something. We've got blend recording or overdub. So without this selected, if you're recording things in a loop, so if I was to take this pattern here and let's make it Let's make it 16. Let's do 32 bars. Let's say I wanted to record, and I did. I selected everything, and then I press play. 2, 1, go. So see now, overdub recording would allow me to record over this, whereas without this selected, it'll start to replace these notes in places that I play over them. So this is whether you want blend recording or if you want to just record different loops and hear what each one kind of sounds like. Cool. Yeah, that's how that works there. We've got loop recording enabled, so that kind of ties back into that as well. You know, it'll keep looping around and you can keep making changes to it as it loops. We've got a button that says typing keyboard to piano keyboard. So this will literally, if you have a keyboard like this one, it will literally take the notes that you input and treat the middle row as white keys and the bottom and top row, it'll treat the top row of keys as white keys, the numbers as black keys, and then you get another row with the bottom row and the middle row. Bottom row being white keys, middle row being black keys. Okay, that's what that does. We have this button here. And another handy thing about FL is if you hover your cursor over anything, it'll pretty much tell you what it does up here in the left-hand corner. It's the hint panel. So if you ever don't understand what something does, just move your mouse over it and FL will literally tell you what that thing does. This enables scrolling to reach time markers. We don't really need to worry about these last few things. The one thing that you do want to worry about is this button, multi-link to controllers. So if you have a MIDI controller like this, what I can do is I can go back to my channel view and let's open up something kind of more interesting. Let's open up Nexus. Why not? So this is a synthesizer, sample-based synthesizer, kind of a lazy synthesizer, but that's okay. So I have a sound going. Say there's a knob I want to control with this, right? I would click this button, then I would move the knob that I wanted to control, on the virtual knob, then I would move the real-life knob, and boom, look at that. Now that knob moves in the program as I turn this knob. And it sounds like this. Oh no. My Nexus crashed. That'll happen sometimes. Let's try a better explanation of that. Oh, we actually don't have time, but that's okay. So right now, just start familiarizing yourself with the things that we talked about today. Always remember you have that like tooltip thing in the corner that'll pretty much tell you whatever you're confused about. So just move your cursor over that thing and look up in the upper left-hand corner and boom, FL will tell you what it does. Have a good one, and I'll catch you later.